Greetings from Siloam Missionary Baptist Church, located in Rougemont, North Carolina, where the Reverend Wayne Johnson is pastor. Today I will be going over the Sunday school lesson for August 4th, 2024, which is entitled, A Faithful Servant in the Church. Lesson text comes from Acts chapter 9, verses 36 through 43. Related scriptures comes from 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 18 through 37, Matthew chapter 9, verses 18 through 19, and verses 23 through 26, and 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 13 through 18. My name is Charlotte Timberlake. The scripture lesson text reads as thus. Now there was at Joppa a certain disciple named Tabitha, which by interpretation is called Dorcas. This woman was full of good works and alms deeds which she did. And it came to pass in those days that she was sick and died, whom when they had washed, they laid her in an upper chamber. And forasmuch as Lydda was nigh to Joppa, and the disciples had heard that Peter was there, they sent unto him 2 men, desiring him that he would not delay to come to them. Then Peter arose and went with them. When he was come, they brought him into the upper chamber, and all the widows stood by him, weeping and showing the coats and garments which Dorcas made while she was with them. But Peter put them all forth and kneeled down and prayed, and turning him to the body said, Tabitha, arise. And she opened her eyes, and when she saw Peter, she sat up. And he gave her his hand and lifted her up. And when he had called the saints and widows, presented her alive. And it was known throughout all Joppa, and many believed in the Lord. And it came to pass that he tarried many days in Joppa with one Simon, a tanner. May the Lord bless the reading of his word. Golden text. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 20. Today's lesson aim. Facts. To understand the culture of discipleship in the early church. Principle. To appreciate the position of Dorcas, the mourners, and Peter as the story unfolds. Application. To show that God desires that we serve as faithful disciples, using the abilities he has given us. Introducing the lesson. Joppa was located on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Lydda, a smaller village nestled in the rolling hills, was about 10 miles from Joppa. Peter was visiting Lydda as he went from place to place preaching the gospel. In this lesson, we will examine the faith of a number of people. Faith caused Dorcas to use her talents for the Lord. Faith caused her friends to believe a miracle could happen. Faith encouraged Peter to attempt the impossible. Developing the lesson. Number 1. The death of Dorcas. Acts chapter 9, verses 36 through 37. Acts gives 2 names for the godly woman who lived at Joppa. Tabitha, her Hebrew name, and Dorcas, her Greek name. Dorcas is first identified as a disciple of Jesus Christ. The word disciple simply means one who follows the teaching of another. Dorcas's love for the Lord was expressed through good deeds and charitable acts. Verse 36, which involved works of mercy on behalf of the less fortunate. During the time Peter was in Lydda, this godly woman passed away. The custom of the Jews was to bury the body on the day of death, but her friends placed her body in an upper room and apparently delayed burial. Number 2, the determination of the friends. Acts chapter 9, verse 38. The friends of Dorcas are also described as disciples. They also followed the teachings of Christ, and they had heard that Peter was only 10 miles away. Number 3, the decision of Peter, Acts chapter 9, verses 39 through 43. When Peter arrived, the disciples immediately took him to the body of Dorcas. The room was filled with widows and others who had loved her. Politely yet firmly, Peter requested that everyone leave the room as he sought the Lord's will. He knew the power of God, and he knew that with faith as a grain of mustard seed, he could move mountains. Matthew chapter 17, verse 20. Peter knelt down and prayed. He then turned to face the dead body lying on the bed and said, "Tabitha, arise." Acts chapter 9, verse 40. She immediately opened her eyes as her spirit was quickened. Grasping her hand, Peter lifted her up from her deathbed to a renewed life. Peter's faith had indeed been enough. The healing of Dorcas was a powerful exhibition of the supremacy of God and the power of simple faith. The writer of Acts recorded, and many believed in the Lord. Verse 42. We'll now go over the questions in the back of the lesson. Question number 1. What two people and what two towns are mentioned in this account of Peter's ministry? The answer: as Peter traveled around the country, he came to Lydda, where he healed a man named Aeneas of paralysis, verses 32 through 34. The town of Joppa was about 12 miles away, where there lived a certain disciple named Tabitha, verse 36, also known by her Greek name Dorcas, both meaning gazelle. Question number 2. What was Dorcas's reputation among the people of Joppa? The answer: Dorcas was known for her good works and helpful deeds for many others. Question number 3. What happened to Dorcas that caused sorrow in the town, and what did the people do with her? The answer: while Peter was ministering in nearby Lydda, Dorcas became sick and died. One wonders why God sometimes allows his faithful servants to die when they are eager to minister, while allowing other people to live who otherwise have no interest in serving him. Regardless, the reason why God grants life and breath to anyone is so they can serve him. Question number 4. To whom did Dorcas's friends reach out for help, and what made them think of doing this? The answer: the short distance between Joppa and Lydda allowed news of Peter's healing ministry to reach Joppa quickly. Distressed as they were over Dorcas's death, they turned to Peter for help. The Bible does not specifically record instances of the apostles raising anyone from the dead up to the time of Acts chapter 9, but God's power was definitely at work in Peter. Question number 5. How did the people of Joppa let Peter know how much Dorcas had meant to them? The answer: the mourners impressed upon Peter her generosity, showing him robes and other clothing she had made for them, some of which they were likely wearing at the very moment. More than an effort to convey Dorcas's competence as a seamstress, the widows were testifying to her love for people in abject poverty. No doubt Dorcas's ministry restored some measure of respect to some impoverished widows. Question number 6. What initial action by Peter mimicked what Jesus had done? The answer: the first thing Peter did was send everyone else out of the room, just as Jesus had dismissed a number of people before healing the young girl. Question number 7. Why is it important to know that Peter prayed before doing anything else? The answer: Peter then knelt down and prayed, showing that he was not relying on any power of his own, but on what God could accomplish through him. We see the same attitude in the healing of Aeneas when Peter said to him, Aeneas, Jesus Christ maketh thee whole. Arise and make thy bed. Acts chapter 9, verse 34. Peter recognized that whatever spiritual authority and power he might have came from God and was not in himself. Question number 8. What happened after his prayer? The answer, Dorcas immediately opened her eyes, saw Peter, and sat up. Question number 9. What happened in Joppa as a result of this incident? The answer, soon the whole town had heard about the raising of Dorcas. Her own popularity surely contributed to the news spreading quickly. This miracle gave Peter and the other believers opportunities to share the gospel message, for many others became believers as a result of this incident. And question number 10. Where did Peter stay and why is this significant? The answer, Peter stayed in Joppa many days as the guest of Simon the tanner. Tanners were not looked upon favorably by Jewish people because of their constant contact with the skins of dead animals, making them ceremonially unclean. Cross-reference Leviticus chapter 11, verse 40. In the next chapter of Acts, Peter would be sent to minister to a group of Gentiles at the home of Cornelius. So his stay with Simon served as preparation for his next assignment in ministry. Here are the practical points from the lesson. Number 1, Christians are great blessings for Christ as they lovingly serve their communities. Acts chapter 9, verse 36. Number 2, active faith leaves a lasting impression on those we encounter. Verses 37 through 38. Number 3, active faith attracts those seeking peace and comfort in times of crisis. Verse 39. Number 4, God works through those who will submit to him in faith and rely on his power. Verse 40. Number 5, God is still using those who believe he can bring life into the midst of death. Verse 41. And number 6, God's people are called to make his truth known to all who will hear. Verses 42 through 43. In summary, our lesson highlights the faithfulness of true disciples of Christ. Dorcas faithfully served others. Her fellow disciples believed God could raise her to life, and Peter acted in faith to do just that. Not only did the Lord return Dorcas to life again, but also many people in the area were born again and given new life. Even today, as we read of the miraculous raising of the seamstress, we are encouraged and our faith grows. This will conclude the lesson for this morning. Thank you for listening. Discipleship begins and ends with love. Have a blessed week.